Recording now. All right, coaches. I'm here today with Coach Robinson. Sorry, Coach, tell me again, from Curtis.
Yeah, from Curtis High School.
Okay, and Coach Elliot from Olympia.
Beamer.
Sorry, Coach. I thought it was Olympia with that O right there on the hat. What kind of hat is that you got there?
This is Red Star Taco Barn.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good spot.
There you go. All right, so are you guys NPSL now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I am,
and
at
Coach
least.
Curtis is SPSL?
SPSL, yeah.
Okay, so what's that, the Southwest District tournament that you guys send guys out of?
No, that's more like the Vancouver area. So I don't even know what the heck of our name is.
West Central District.
West Central District.
Thank you.
There you go.
It's too many of
The
them.
West Central District. And I can tell you guys that somebody is always coming out of that tournament and getting into the Final Four, winning a state title. That's been a heck of a tournament. What's there, three leagues that feed into that?
Yes, at least my understanding. Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. NPSL, SPSL, and then the Vancouver guys down
The
south.
Vancouver guys too. Very nice. All right. So get your pens and pencils ready, because we are going to talk to coaches today about some team defense, some program stuff, and then what a week looks like for their hitters. So, Coach Robinson, we'll start with you. Obviously, at the high school level, we defend first and third and bunt situations quite a bit more. So take a second and tell us a little bit how you defend bunt and how you defend first and third.
We like to put a lot of pressure on guys. We don't have a problem bringing our first baseman down pretty heavy or cheating a third baseman a little bit, depending on the situation, obviously. One of the things that we try and preach is just you're looking to get an out. You know, if we try and make the home run play and next thing you know, the ball's down the left or right field line, well, now we put ourselves in a lot more trouble, gave a run or two away, and the innings actually catch a lot more momentum than if we just get the out that's there for us. Every other day we alternate our bunt defense with PFPs, and it's just kind of been a daily routine in terms of that. We try and keep it incredibly simple. I know that you get up to the next level, especially in junior college and D3, D2, D1, and things can be a lot more, a lot more plays involved. We just want to make sure that we play catch, we get an out. The last few years we've been pretty fortunate to have pretty good athlete behind the plate, pretty good athlete at shortstop, and not too many POs. And so we allow our pitchers to really come off the mound and be athletes as well. And use those instincts to know that, I can get that out at first base on a bunt, or, first and second, we're fifth or sixth inning, and we really got to make sure we get that out of third. I'm going to be aggressive coming off the mound. And the final thing, it really starts with the guy behind the plate. It's a lot of fun to see catchers come in when they're freshmen or when they get their chance when they're sophomores, and their voice is not there. And we are on them from day one, and we break them down and then we build them back up, because 14, 15-year-old coming in and you got a junior or senior shortstop and a junior or senior corner guy, they don't recognize it. They're listening to you. They want you to tell them where to go and what to do, because you got the field vision there. And over the past, I'd say about 3 or 4 years or so, we've had some really good catchers that just take over first and thirds, and they often don't even look at the dugout. They know the situation. And man, that's a lot of fun to watch when you're sitting back and watching these players that come in with no voice, and by the time they're juniors and seniors, they can take it over themselves.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. One of my assistant coaches always says it's the first team to make a mistake that's going to lose, and so we always talk about keeping it simple, and that's awesome. Yeah. Coach Elliot, how about you? What do the Beamer boys do?
So first and third defense is pretty straightforward. Like B-Rob said, it depends on the catcher, and that'll determine what we call from the dugout. But we got the traditional read play where second baseman comes in front. We got pump fake. We got throw back to the pitcher, which is kind of a little league. Has kind of a little league background, but I found that in high school, that guy on third, if the coach is telling them, hey, you're going as soon as it releases to catcher's hand, and that guy on third base is pretty jumpy, and I've actually seen it work. So we do that, and then one thing we always tell our catchers on first and third defense is before you make a throw, just get a quick peak down the line because, again, that base runner on third is very jumpy usually. One thing also that if I have a catcher with a hose piece, we like to do pitch outs when we know that when the steal is on for sure, because then he can just stand up and it's just boom. And then if we have a good second baseman, for example, if we do a pitch out with a read with the middle guys, I'm pretty confident if we have a strong second baseman. If we don't have a strong second baseman, they can't make that throw to the dish, then we'll just do straight pitch out and just have them throw that runner out. Yeah. What we call usually depends on scenario and situation in the game. If we're up, if we're losing, that determines what we call. But those are the three main first and third plays that we do. For bunt defenses, a little bit more complex. We have everything is stemmed off the pitcher's looks to home. He starts looking at the catcher when he comes set. One look to second, two looks, and then everything stems off of that. We usually typically start if there's a base runner on first and second, then usually the pitcher starts with a leg over just to see if we can see hands from the hitter. We train our catchers to yell out hands or bunt because he's watching hands. That's usually what we first call, just the leg over, and then we have three other plays from that. We have the fake flash, which on the second look, the shortstop runs to second base like we're going to do a pick. When that happens, typically the third base coach, especially guys that are over vocal, when he sees that shortstop flash his glove, he thinks it's going to be a pick, and then he's yelling back usually, and then the base runner at second retreats, and then our pitcher throws the ball. And he throws a strike, hopefully, and that makes it so that we usually get the lead out at third base because that base runner at second is retreating because he thinks he's going to get picked off, and the first baseman is crashing on that. And then we also have the daylight play, same thing with two looks. First and third base, first baseman, third baseman are cheating. Everything stems off two looks. Second look, as soon as the pitcher sees daylight, shortstop it's the wheel play. He's going to third base and he's covering third. Second baseman's going to first. And again, we're usually trying to get that lead out at third base.
Very nice.
One of the things that kind of got our guys crossed up a few years back was the first and thirds, and the guy at first just gets that almost walking lead, like we're just gonna try and just bait you to throw one over, and we're gonna the guy from third's gonna take off and go on your throw to first, and so one of the things that I kind of stole from playing at junior college level was we were taught as pitchers to get rid of it and throw it immediately to shortstop, and he will literally catch it, hold it up, and just stare at the runner at third base and walk the guy back to first, and then we hit the reset button. And when we would practice it and go over it, we had outfielders are doing the base running and get some speedy outfielders will try and cheat it a little bit, but it's kind of awkward at first because you're telling your athletes to like catch the ball and walk on the field, right, and just walk the runner back to first, but you're not even looking at him and you're just daring the runner at third to go. And more often than not, teams all over the state are going to have their stronger arm, better athlete be a shortstop, and the more often that we can get the ball in his hand, to make a play, the better off it's going to be. If we only got like Coach was saying, we get just about 3 plays all the way through to short, but every single time the ball's thrown to second base, our second baseman is either cutting in front with a verbal from our third baseman to cut it and throw home, or you don't hear anything, it's all the way through, we'll take the out if they happen to go, or like Coach was saying, the pump fake or just the dart down to third base with no pump fake. Again, it's a lot of the times you have it called and it works, and if it doesn't, you hit the reset button. There's no harm in a guy getting a second, I guess, and just going back to work where you got to cut the infield off or whatever. But our biggest bugaboo at times, a lot of what I've seen too, especially when you get into those playoff-like games where small ball is huge, is you go for that home run play, and the next thing you know, guys are going around the merry-go-round, and you're down 2-0 on what should have just been a gimme out. So,
yeah, totally agree, Coach. I love that that 2-look leg over or the fake that you make there, where you get the coach just yelling back and driving it back. Glacier Peak ran that against us a couple of years ago, and they had that kid that went down. He's playing at Oregon State right now, and it killed us. I mean, our kid went all the way back to second, and then he tried to turn and run on bunt, got thrown out. And that's a good play, especially when you got first and second and a force at third. And it's good stuff.
One other thing I forgot was the first and third defense. When the guy at first leaves early intentionally, it's crazy that we have to practice that. But the pitchers, their brains on that play, they just it's like cannot compute. And so one thing that I look for when I'm on the offensive side is if the pitcher on the bump is gangly and long and does not look athletic, I'll put him if we're up, if we're chasing 4, I'm not going to do this. But if we're up and the guy on the bump does not look like he moved or does not look like a thinker, then I'll tell the guy on first just to leave early and watch the guy balk or throw the ball away.
Yeah, I love it. We always tell our pitchers, step off and freeze the guy at third first. And it's the same thing, Coach, you're talking about having your shortstop stop and walk. It's like it's so awkward for them to do that because that guy's running, not that guy. Why do I have to look at him? Yeah, it takes some time to get that done. All right, good stuff, guys. Question 2 here is a little bit more about your programs and kind of what you guys do to develop them. So, Coach Elliot, we'll start with you. How do you develop leadership, expectations, and just culture in general in your program?
So this would have been my 5th year at Beamer, and I played for a coach who's very military style of leadership and sayings and mottos. Our motto that we use for Todd Beamer is it comes from a old Clint Eastwood movie, Heartbreak Ridge, and it's AIO, which is adapt, improvise, and overcome. And one of the things from day one is that we implemented I stole a lot of the stuff from my college coach, but I altered it as well. And so one thing that we do is I force the kids to watch Heartbreak Ridge as a team every year. It's an old 80s. It's color, thankfully, but it's pretty bad A. It's all about grit and toughness. I love dirt bags. We practice sliding head first. We run on and off the field. We sprint. Our saying is to get 9 on before they get, or we get 9 on before they get 5 off. It's expected that any fly ball that you hit to the outfield, you want to stand on second base. We're not pimping anything. As far as leadership, the coaches, we try to model a lot of the behavior ourselves. We really want to emphasize. We don't like the setup where the captain is pointing his finger and telling people to do things. We like the model of the captain's out front and he's down in the trenches. One of the sayings that we have is we don't want any tipper-toers and finger tippers. When you go to pull a tarp, we don't have a tarp. But the guys that are complaining that it's cold and windy and my hands are cold and it's muddy, we want to be down in the trenches. And one thing that we talk about is who's and this comes from the Heartbreak Ridge, who's in your ride back gang. The ride back gang is when you know what hits the fan, who's going to come back and get you and pull you up. A lot of it is we talk a lot about mental toughness, and we play a failure sport, and we talk a lot about what do you look like and what do you say and what does your body language look like when you're 0 for 4 with 4 backwards Ks and 4 for 4 with 4 doubles. We want our players to look the same on both days so that if a coach comes and watches him when he sucks, at least he's still got his head up and his chest out and his shoulders back. And that's really what we're about. We do a lot of team bonding stuff. We do team barbecues if we get 3 wins in a row. We really want to make underclassmen feel welcome when they come in too. Like we were talking, B-Rob, you were talking earlier about the freshmen and their voice. They're just so nervous, especially during tryouts. And then if an underclassman makes varsity for the first time, we don't want the seniors or the upperclassmen to be dickheads to them. we want them to wrap their arms around those guys instead of being the cool guy that has arm sleeves and chains and bands and all that. So we're kind of old school. I like flair, but I like the flair when it's like I'm just competing. I'm not being a jerk to the other team. I'm not being a jerk to the umpire. I'm just having fun, and I just hit a double, and I'm going to celebrate with my guys in the dugout.
Awesome, Coach. Do you guys carry 2 teams or 3 teams usually?
2 teams.
3?
Just 2, unfortunately.
Oh, two. Okay. Do
Yeah.
you guys usually practice together, or are you guys separated?
So we've done, unfortunately, the turnout that we've had in the featherweight district as far as players, the numbers are so small that we don't really have enough to do like the separation of talent between the varsity guys versus the freshmen on JV that's on the team. It's really not safe to do everything together.
Yeah.
But usually the JV will have the field for an hour, and then varsity comes on late, and we stretch while they finish up, and then JV goes up top into the cages, and varsity takes over. In my early years at Beamer, we had a lot more turnout, and so we were able to do inter-squad with JV varsity.
Cool. Coach Robinson, how about you?
Yeah, so going to the point that changes made, we've had some low turnouts as well, and so one of the things that we try and do early is we have about 2 or 3 meetings leading up to the season, and we implement Shane knows him as well, a guy named Tim Kuykendall, and Tim was at Curtis when I first got into coaching in high school, and I learned from him quite a bit. But one of the acronyms I really enjoyed from him was REAL, and it was rejecting passivity, empathizing with others, accepting responsibility, and leading courageously. And so they get their notebook and their meeting that's right after football season, right before basketball, and then another one that's when like the week or two before we go out for tryouts. And they're tasked to define each one, put it in their own words, and find an example of how you make that work on the field and off the field. And then they share it. And the goal is that they not just share it with like their senior buddy or you're sharing, senior to a freshman, sophomore to a junior, whatever it might, somebody out of your grade class. And as the season progresses, we after every practice, we ask a couple guys, give me an R, an EA, or an L, and how did you show that today? And it could be something that happened at school, could be something that happened during practice. And one of the best things that happened this year is before we got banged so early was, we're just running simple wind sprints, and it's after a pretty decent practice in terms of pushing guys a little bit, and we had a guy that just kind of had his shoe untied, but not really, and one of our sophomores called him out on it, and and we looked at each other as coaches, and we see it every year, but to see the sophomore take that responsibility to not let his teammate slack or not let his teammate, and then we address it as coaches at the end about seeing the bigger picture. Is it about a sprint? Probably not. Maybe for the sophomore it was more about a sprint, but then you relay that to how it has a bigger impact on the game, a season, your life, and so on. And so that starts with that REAL acronym and just translates to almost every aspect that we possibly can get to, especially when we only have the guys for 2.5, 3 months, because Legion baseball isn't incredibly popular over on this side of the mountains, and so we only get them for X amount of time. And so we also too don't really have an opportunity to, well, we do every day, but we just want to get guys reps and reps and reps and reps after we implement what we can with them. So we do split up our 2 teams that for maybe about a 45 to 50-minute segment of every practice. But the pre-practice stuff, the post-practice stuff, that's all together. But when you can get everybody from a JV player to a varsity player all on board with that acronym, it translates to where a freshman who's maybe getting a little bit of playing time on JV becomes a 2-year starter on varsity the next year, and it's all the same language and the same expectations.
Very nice. That's good stuff. Coach, anything to add before we move on to hitters?
All
cool.
Good.
All right. So, Coach Elliot, we'll start with you here on this one. What's a typical week look like for your hitters? And it's kind of open-ended. Talk about, daily drills or BP routine, on-field versus cage, however you want to go with this one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So our routine looks a little bit different. Those first 10 practices or so that we have before the first game, they don't hit as much as I would like, just because we're inserting a lot of the things that we need to be ready for game one. First and third, bunts, how we do things, innie, outie, all that stuff, base running. But once we get into a groove of the season and everything has been inserted, our hitters hit every day, whether it's live off of another pitcher who's getting his work in on the mound. We have a cage down by our field next to the dugout, so we do a lot of rotations. Um, we try to do as much live as possible because as you guys know, there's just not a lot of time in high school season for guys to really fine tune their swing. So the expectation for most varsity players is hopefully that they've been working out and hitting and doing the drill work and the tee work since basically Halloween when the facility's open. But once the season starts, a typical hitting day and typical hitting week when we hit on the field, there's a team there's a group in the cages and they're doing tee work and front toss, and then they move on to live, and then there's two defensive groups that are taking live reps on the field. And whether it's live from a pitcher or coach throwing BP, that's what we do. We also recently got a pitching machine, so we implement that because I want to have my guys see as much velocity as possible. When me or my assistant coaches throw, I mean, it's good, but it's not the velocity that they need to be seeing. So like I said, we hit every day. The pregame BP is different than the middle of the week BP. The pregame BP is what I just told you, where there's the four groups and they're rotating. But if it's not pregame BP, then we'll talk some more approach. We'll talk some mechanics. We'll talk some two-strike stuff. And then usually we'll incorporate mostly tee work during the week or front toss or cage work with coach throwing. So yeah, that's what a week looks like.
Nice. Yeah, I went to machines a couple years ago, and just being able to get that velocity, and we throw breaking balls with ours too. And these guys see front toss and tee work all winter long, and all of a sudden someone's trying to get them out and the game changes. So I totally agree with you on the machines. That's good stuff. Coach Robinson, how about you?
We're pretty fortunate to have, we have four cages, and as fast pitch comes up and they want to they get two cages, we get two cages, but oftentimes we'll get our offensive work in while they're doing their defensive stuff on the field. So we end up with four cages that is just a gift. And so every tee drill comes with a throwdown plate on it, and every cage has a discipline that they're going to be getting accomplished. More often than not, your high school hitters really struggles with letting the ball get deep and driving the ball middle away. Feel like any hitter 1 through 9 for the most part can pull a baseball really well, and that's great, and it has to happen, of course. But we really stress with our hitters that in order to be successful, and the goal for all of them is they want to get to the next level, and we want to see it happen too, is you got to be able to handle all quadrants of the plate, and most importantly, those balls that are middle away. And one of the things that we're trying to preach to our hitters is, look, the quality of pitcher in high school is cream of the crop, and then we can handle, you get majority of hitters can handle the rest. Well, I would be willing to bet that the high school pitcher throwing a fastball inside 3 straight times to get you is not going to happen very often. And so we're really going to own that middle outer half as best as we possibly can. So we'll set up tees on, the outer third of the plate, and they got to drive middle away. And it goes back to that accountability of their teammate, because we don't have enough coaches to be at every single station. And our cages are above in the upper left field, and they come down to the field for when we hit on the field. So if that discipline is middle away on that tee, well, then the cage next door is a seated firm toss, and it's the same thing. It's middle away and that seated firm toss. The other two cages on the other side, well, the discipline's going to be handling that ball inside and keeping it middle. Keep your hands in, drive the ball middle. You pull it, you hit the left side of the screen or hit the left side of the net. Okay, take a step out, reset, and understand the goal is to go right back at the L screen on a ball that's inner third. If you can, they can teach themselves and drive themselves to mentally do that. Then we go down to live, and a pulled baseball isn't getting hooked foul. A pulled baseball is being driven into the left center field gap or being driven, down the left field line, because their approach is thinking pepper in the L screen, driving the ball to the right center field gap instead. And it's day in and day out, every single day. And we also just recently picked up a pitching machine too, and it's not so much for the velocity of seeing live; it's for getting bunts down, velocity of handling bunts. But fastballs up, making sure that we relay off of that. We move the machine around to kind of get guys to go, hey, we get set here. The ball's above your barrel. It's often going to be a ball. So pull it back, take it back, and then we'll move the machine back down again to put it in play. But it's really a lot about getting them, because like Coach said, they're in a facility from October till they come out the first day. And so it's not so much a matter of getting their reps and their quality reps. It's like, here's what we believe in from a mental side. Put those quality reps to use with where we see you being successful as a hitter. And of course, we're not going to expect a 5'6" second baseman to go drive the ball to right field gap every single time, but his mentality sure as heck is. And then hopefully he finds a lot more success with not just one side of the field, but utilizing the whole field. And T-work is, like, everybody who's going to see this, and we both know, I think the single most important thing for hitters. And then where we find ourselves now, I mean, they can go do T-work anywhere. And if they have an idea of not just setting the tee right down the middle, right outside of your front foot or whatever it might be, I'm going to move it around. I understand why. So a lot of it comes down to the mentality and that discipline of driving the ball middle away or in every drill that we're doing.
Cool. Good stuff, Coach. Coach Elliot, anything to follow up on there with?
Yeah. One thing that we preach is team ABs or family ABs. We know that we live in a culture where bunting's not cool, but we also know that when you're in the state tournament, there's going to be a time where you got to get a bunt down. Like, you're going against a dude that's low 90s and it's 1-1, 2-1, and we need you to just clutch up for the family and the team and put a bunt down. And so we rep a lot of those situational offensive sequences where they're bunting down third base, they're bunting down first base, they're doing hit and run, they're doing oppo, they're doing infield in, infield back. Our guys have the expectation that when there's a guy on third base with less than 2 outs, that it's unacceptable to not score him. And our guys know that when there's 2 strikes and the middle is playing back, that our goal is just hard middle. Just put the ball hard in the middle. And during our BP rounds, we focus with our verbiage is gap to gap. It's sitting left center to right center, like B-Rob said. Yanking balls down the third baseline is not what we want to see during BP. We also rep a lot of oppo stuff because guys can't hit the ball. They can't drive the ball the opposite way in high school. And then one of the drills that we do that's a lot of fun, we like to incorporate as much competition as possible. And so we'll divide the varsity up into 3 different teams, and one team is hitting and the other 2 teams are playing defense. A guy might be slightly out of position, but sometimes it's kind of fun to see what your center fielder, if he's athletic enough, we'll put him at shortstop and just watch him compete. It might look ugly, but the dude's an athlete. He's picking up the baseball and he can play catch. But we separate the guys into 3 teams, and it's coach pitch, and one team is up. And some rounds we'll say, okay, out of these 5 guys, your job is to do hit and run. Each of you do a hit and run. Or the next round, it's, okay, infield's back. Out of you 5 guys, how many of you 5 for your team can get that runner in from third base? And that's a fun way to get competitive with the boys, because BP sometimes is monotonous. And so breaking it up with competitive stuff like that is enjoyable to watch. And then another thing that we do is when guys lose, they don't run, because our philosophy is that conditioning or getting faster or stronger is a reward and should not be a punishment. So, that's anytime we can bring competition in with the boys during an offensive session, we found that it's very productive.
Nice.
One of the things too is like just try to get them on like 8 quality reps, right? You can get stuck, and a lot of guys will hurt, a couple of guys will joke like, hey, you hitting the bucket today, or what are we doing? And so you get like no more than 8 quality, take your time. Don't try and rush you, especially the T-drills and the firm toss. And then you get down to the field and you got 3 rounds of 8. And if you're not mentally in it, those 21 hacks go by in a blink of an eye. And we get a few guys that really get your body language sometimes. They get frustrated when they don't get their results. And so oftentimes we'll have a conversation about, well, how did it go up in the cage today? Were you just kind of just going through the motions and then you come down here and you're hoping to get your reward? No, this is where you get the fruits of your reward, because nobody's watching you in the cage that often. I mean, like I said earlier, our coaches are a pitching coach and a JV coach, and if we can get a couple assistants here and there because they're volunteers, then that's great. But if not, a lot of the times it's these guys are holding each other accountable. And if it's a mundane Tuesday sometimes and the guy's had a bad day at school and he's going to bring it to practice, he gets down to the field where he thinks he can just turn it on and destroy coach's BP or tee off on the pitching machine, and he doesn't have it. We don't let you go past 8, because at least when your 8 is done, it's a reflection going into the next round. Or if that's your last 8 of the day and we're cleaning up, hey, how can you get better tomorrow? And because it's really simple to just kind of get rep after rep, and next thing you know, your rep isn't quality, it's just you're trying to get quantity. And it turns into a teaching lesson too for some of these guys as well. And you can definitely have 8 reps, so you're going away. You're driving the ball through the hole, hitting 8 hit and runs in a row if you even have to sometimes, just so they can, and then they're done and they move on to the next one. So I always like to see just 8 quality and move on.
Very nice. Sorry to mute myself. Got a little wind here on the Palouse.
Nice.
Good stuff. Coach Robinson, Coach Elliot, awesome stuff today. Really enjoyed it. Thank you guys both for coming on. I would say good luck the rest of the way, but unfortunately we're stuck in no man's land right now, but hopefully we're back soon and you guys are back coaching. I really enjoyed talking with both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for making this happen.
Yeah, thanks, Coach.
Absolutely.